There may be cases when you have an existing feature service, either in Esri's ArcGIS Online or on a local ArcGIS server, and you simply want to append live updating values to that feature service. For example, for a user who has spent weeks drawing complicated pipeline layers in a feature service, it doesn't make sense to copy that geometry back into PyAF, then publish it into a brand new feature service. Instead, it makes more sense to simply append live values from the Pi system to that pre-existing feature service. In this case, we have a complicated feature service that already exists called cross-country lines. And it wasn't created by the integrator, but via another means, for example, Esri's ArcMap desktop software. And what we want to do is we want to append to each feature in this feature service new live updating fields, additional fields down here that will receive Pi system data via the PI Integrator for Esri ArcGIS. And rather than duplicating every field of the feature service within AF, we simply created a simpler AF template that contains only the new fields that we wish to append to the pre-existing static fields. And to match up these elements with the existing features, we're using a field called identifier. So we've made sure that the values of the identifier attribute in our elements match up with the identifier values for our features. If you're in a similar case as this one, and you simply want to append live fields to an existing feature service, or if your PyAF system simply contains no geometry information, you should create and use a custom GeoEvent service in the GeoEvent Processor. You use that custom GeoEvent service to add geometry information to an existing stream of real-time data from the PI Integrator for Esri ArcGIS. That added geometry information can be provided from a different Esri ArcGIS source, such as in this case, an existing feature service. To use a custom GeoEvent service, you must first create a custom connector in the GeoEvent Processor, which creates the proper inputs. Normally, the custom connector in the GeoEvent Processor must use the JSON adapter, feature JSON, with HTTP protocol configured as the transport method. The custom connector isn't configured by default. After the custom connector is configured, you can then create a new input in the GeoEvent Processor and start receiving data from the PI Integrator for Esri ArcGIS. And what follows is we're going to describe how to create that custom connector, how to create a GeoEvent definition, and how to create the required input in the GeoEvent Processor. So these following steps must be performed one time for each GeoEvent Processor in your configuration. And the procedure is as follows. First, I'll log into my GeoEvent Processor Manager, and I'll click on the Site tab, and then I'll click on the Connectors menu item. And I can go ahead and hit the Create Connector button. Now I've already gone ahead and done that, so I'm going to show you what I've created. I've actually gone ahead and created a connector right here, and let me show you all the settings for it. So when you're creating this new connector, you'll use the exact same settings. So in the name field, you enter a name, such as in this case, http-fjson-no-auth. Enter the label field, or also enter a label, which is identical here, and a description if we want to. In the type field, we're going to select that this is going to be an input connector. We'll select the input radio button. In the adapter field, we'll select JSON, and in the transport, we'll select HTTP. Now, in the default input name field, we'll enter the name that we'll use as a default, such as in this case, http-fjson-no-auth. And having done all this, we'll accept the remaining default values and click Create. And I've already gone ahead and done that, and this is exactly the results that I arrived with. So this is actually creating the custom connector. Now, next, we're going to have to create a GeoEvent definition, and this must be performed for each data stream that you want to do this procedure for. So, again, I'm going to take a data stream from my AF server that only contains these limited attributes, and I'm going to send that to a pre-existing feature service. So I'm going to have to do this procedure once, in this case, to create the custom GeoEvent definition. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to the PI Integrator for Esri ArcGIS Manager. And I'm going to go to the layer detail page of the layer, and I'm going to get the field information from it. So basically I'm going to take all of the fields and use those to create my GeoEvent definition. So I actually haven't created the layer yet, and I'm going to do that for you now, just because I want you to see what happens when you try to create a layer without geometry. Because as you noticed here, there's no geometry in my AF template. I'm simply going to use the geometry that already exists here in my destination feature service. So I've already gone ahead and created a service in the configuration portal. And now let me go ahead and create a layer. I'm going to call this cross-country lines. I'll give it a description. I'll select my AF database and my template. I'll specify a search route. I'll go ahead and hit preview. And as you can see, it's bringing in the live values that I want to append. These are all going to be new fields appended to that existing feature service. And of course, we have the identifier attribute, which we'll use to match up this data with the correct existing feature. So this right now is continuing as usual. I'm going to go ahead and specify that this identifier is going to be the key. And I'll go ahead and hit continue. Now you notice that there was no geometry, and I do receive a pop-up letting me know that I've not specified any fields that supply geometry information. And it mentions that this is going to prevent me from using the built-in wizard to publish my layer to ArcGIS. Now that's totally fine because I'm using a pre-existing feature service, and I'm simply appending this data to it. So this pop-up is totally acceptable. I'll go ahead and hit create layer. And I'm not going to open the wizard. I'll go ahead and hit no thanks. So as we mentioned before, I'm going to be creating a GeoEvent definition. And I'm going to start by making the GeoEvent definition that matches up with the fields of this data stream. So let me go ahead and click Fields here for the data stream I just created. And I can create a GeoEvent definition that has all of these matching fields. So I'll start creating this in the GeoEvent Processor. So to go ahead and create the new GeoEvent definition, I'll go to the GeoEvent Processor, I'll go to the Site tab, which is where I am right now, and I'll click on GeoEvent Definitions. And what I want is I want to create a new GeoEvent definition. It'll ask me for my title, and let me call this Cross-Country Transmission. Go ahead and hit Create. And in the name field, I've entered a nice descriptive name here. I'll leave that the way it is. And now, for each field that I find in my data stream in the integrator, I'm going to go ahead and click the New Field button and perform the following steps. So let's begin. There's the current power field. So I'll go ahead and copy this name. Let me go ahead and click New Field. I'm going to enter the field name, and I'm going to enter the type. The type here is a double. And I'm going to leave the cardinality as 1. It's right below type. Now, a note, all attribute names should be specified in lowercase letters, and this is very important. The PI Integrator for Esri ArcGIS uses all lowercase attribute names when sending data to the GeoEvent processor. So I'll make sure that this is lowercase. And you'll notice below that there's the available tags and added tags fields. Now, I'm only going to use this for fields that identify a feature. And for those fields, the track ID tag should be moved to the added tags section of the screen. The current power field is not the one that I'm using to identify a feature. That's going to be my identifier, which we discussed earlier. So for this, I'll leave this as it is, and I'll simply go ahead and hit Create. And I'll repeat these procedure for all the other fields. I'll make sure it's lowercase. I'll make the type correct. I'll leave cardinality as 1. And this isn't an identifier, so I'll simply go ahead and hit Create. Now this is actually my identifier, so I'm going to leave this as a string, but since it's what I use to identify my features, I'll move over the track ID. Let's save. So now you see that this has track ID, and I'm almost done. I have to do just one more. And there, and I've finished my custom GeoEvent definition. And each of these fields here, current power through name, all 6 of these match up with the fields that I see here in the Integrator configuration portal. The types match and the names match, and I've made sure that all the names are indeed lowercase. So I'll go ahead and hit save. Now, having done that, I'm going to go ahead and start creating the necessary objects on the GeoEvent processor to obtain data from the layer that I created in the configuration portal and send that to my target feature service. So first we need to obtain the URL for that layer that I created. So as you saw earlier, we've gone ahead and created the service and we created the layer in the configuration portal. So let's go ahead and obtain the URL for the layer. So I'll go to the configuration portal. I'll click on the Stream Server hyperlink. Let me click Services Directory. And I'm going to be using HTTP. So let me copy the URL for using cold HTTP, which is this URL right here. When choosing the HTTPS URL, please ensure that the PI Integrator for Esri ArcGIS HTTPS certificate is trusted in this GeoEvent Processor instance, and we have some documentation at the OSIsoft Live library for describing that. So let me go ahead and head back to my GeoEvent Processor. So now that I'm in the GeoEvent Processor, let me go ahead and start creating that input. So to create the input, I'll go to Services, I'll click Inputs, go ahead and add an input. And the input connector screen displays, and I'm going to locate the input name that I just created earlier. In this case, it's this one, http-fjson-no-auth. And I'll click the Select button. So the Creating Input screen displays. And in the name field, I'll enter a descriptive name for this input. In this case, let me call it Cross Country Lines Input. Under Create GeoEvent Definition, I'm actually going to select No, and I'm going to use the GeoEvent definition that I just created. So I'll scroll down and I'll find that one that I made, which is Cross Country Lines Transmission. It's the one I just created and saved. And now I'm going to get to the part where I insert the URL. So here's the URL that we mentioned. I copied this from my layer. I'll go ahead and paste this in here. And I'm actually going to append something to the end of this. I'm going to append $F equals JSON. Just this suffix here. Now I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And so I've properly created an input that uses that new GeoEvent definition that I just created. So we need to create the remaining 2 objects on the GeoEvent processor, the output and the service. So we'll begin with the output. So go ahead and click Outputs. And on the output screen, I'll click Add Output. And I want to scroll down, and I specifically want to use the type of output called Update a Feature. I'm going to give it a new name for my output. I'll call it Cross Country Lines Output. And I'll specify the data store and the actual feature service that I want to write data to. Again, this is the ArcGIS Online account in this case, and the feature service. So this is the account that I use to log in, and this is my feature service, Cross Country Lines, the one that exists right here. And I need to specify what the unique feature identifier field is. In this case, it's going to be the identifier field, not the name, so I'll change that, and I'll go ahead and click Save. So now I've created the input, and I've created the output. The input reads data, the output writes data, and I'm going to create a service in between to connect the input to the output. So I'll go ahead and click Add Service. I'll call this Cross Country Lines Service. and I'll give it a particular description. Go ahead and hit create, and I'm going to add the input and output that I just created. So I'll scroll down and under inputs, I can see I have cross-country lines input. I'll drag that, and I'll find the output that I just created as well. So now that these are both dragged on, I will mouse over and I'll see this triangle. I will click that and draw a connector to my output. And now I've created a service that links this input with this output. I can go ahead and click publish. So this process, remember, will append new live updating fields to an existing feature service. So the last step that we'll do will be to actually add these new fields to our service, after which we'll see those fields begin to update with live data. So to begin, let's actually locate our feature service. Again, in my case, it's in ArcGIS Online, and let's add it to a new map with editing enabled. So I'll select the option Add Layer to New Map with Editing Enabled. And that will allow me to actually add the new fields to the feature service. And specifically, what do I mean? Well, if you look here, the fields for this feature service are name, rating, drawn by, last updated, and identifier. But I'm going to be adding on new fields based on my AF template. The new fields are going to be for current power average, another average, and a minimum. So I need to add in some new fields. So I'll just show you what happens when I add a new field, current power. So in order to actually add those, the first thing I'm going to do is just to set the refresh interval. So let me set the refresh interval so we can actually see the results of our work. So I'll mouse over, click refresh interval, and set this to be 0.1 minutes. And I'll go ahead and save my map. I'll give it a title, and I have to specify some tags, and I'll save the map. So now, when actually to add those fields, I'll go ahead and mouse over and select Show Table. And I've gone ahead and selected Show Table, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a field. Now, I'm going to add a field, and I'm going to specify its name and its type. And here I have to make sure that the name matches up exactly with the name of the field in my GeoEvent definition, which means, again, using all lowercase, the exact same name as that field. So remember that current power is one example. Current power. Remember that it is of type double. And this matches up exactly with the current power field. Now, again, it doesn't necessarily match up with the attribute. It matches up with the GeoEvent definition. So I'll go ahead and click Add New Field. And after doing that, when it refreshes, I will see this new field appended to this table. And now if I click on one of these, I will see the new field. And sure enough, I'll also see values from the PI system. And this lets us know that the procedure has indeed been successful. Following all of this, I've manually performed the configuration to simply append new live updating fields to an existing feature service. I can click on all of the other features within this feature service, and I can see that they too are receiving those new values. So just to show another, I'll go ahead and add another field, and this one is going to be called, well, to find what it's going to be called, I'll go to Fields, I'll copy this particular field name, I'll go back, I'll paste it, I'll remember that it needs to be lowercase, and I'll set the correct type of double, and I'll hit Add New Field. That new field will indeed show up, current power average. So now I can see for all of these that they're getting both the current power and the current power average. So I didn't need to bring this existing feature service into AF. I simply used this procedure to append new values, new live updating fields to an existing feature service that had been created in some other manner, not via the integrator. The procedure that I followed for all of this is outlined in great detail in the OSIsoft Live Library. So if you navigate to livelibrary.osisoft.com, there's a section called Integrators. And if you click on Integrators, then the PI Integrator for Esri ArcGIS 2014, then you'll see there's some other interesting information here. But the specific procedure that I've been running through is under User Configuration and Custom Configuration. These are the steps that I walked through. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at OSIsoft Tech Support.